Expected to be a busy week on Capitol Hill, where the funding fight over the Department of Homeland Security could extend the government shutdown. Today, House lawmakers, though, will be back in Washington, where House Speaker Mike Johnson trying to get the government back open as soon as possible. Over the weekend, Democratic leadership in the House said they would not vote for a short-term funding bill. Democrats in the Senate had already negotiated with the White House. Mark Boyle joining us now from the live desk with the latest on this. Good morning to you, Mark. You know, it is Groundhog Day, so kind of apropos that we're also talking about the shutdown yet again.
Here we go again.
Fight over government funding. What can we expect today? Here we go again.
Well, back to the drawing board for some portions of this deal. We have a partial government shutdown to talk about this morning, Jan. Though Republican leaders think that we are going to be able to move this forward, lawmakers trying to avoid yet another record-setting shutdown like the one the country endured late last year. You can't forget that. The Senate passing the funding package late on Friday after striking a bipartisan deal. Now, that deal is making its way to the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson is confident that he can get things passed tomorrow. Listen.
After the Senate acted over the weekend, we will now have 11 of 12 separate appropriations bills approved by both chambers. Because they modified our package, they've sent it over a little differently, which means we've got to address the bills again. So they're going to separate the Department of Homeland Security bill. Our intention is by Tuesday to fund all agencies of the federal government except for that one, and then we'll have 2 weeks of good faith negotiations to figure it out.
A live look over Capitol Hill for you this morning as the sun comes up. And as you heard the House Speaker talk about funding for the Department of Homeland Security, that will be separate from the spending package. That's part of the deal made with Senate Democrats in exchange for funding the government. Republicans in Congress now have agreed to work with Democrats on reforms for immigration enforcement. This morning, a House committee is going to consider the new elements of the Senate spending bill before advancing it to the full House vote. For now, the federal government will enter that partial government shutdown, meaning all non-essential employees will be placed on unpaid leave. Services like Social Security and food inspections will continue, but processing for passports and small business loans, those could see some slowdowns. We're tracking the very latest for you this morning right here at the live desk. Jan, back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you so much. There are some Democrats, though, who say they do plan to vote with Republicans to keep the government open. Over the weekend, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman said his colleagues voting against the bills wouldn't actually stop ICE enforcement, since the One Big Beautiful bill did include several years' worth of DHS funding.
I was the Democrat that led this charge about what a disaster the border was in the Biden administration. And then I arrived at, starting with the Trump administration, I met with, and actually one of the only Dem that actually met with her, that now it's like we could agree in my office. It's like, secure our border and deport every criminal migrant in our country. And we agree with that. So that's, to me, the only thing we should be focusing on now as ICE for me. And I'm always going to support those kind of efforts to do those things.
This does come as the Office of Management and Budget is working to cut funding to sanctuary cities that ignore federal immigration law.
Is the argument that if someone is picked up for suspected crimes, put into a jail, are some of these local leaders saying, well, they're not actually criminals yet, so we're not going to hand them over? Like, what is the basis of their argument for not cooperating?
But I wish I had the answer to that. I think they're just not letting our federal partners know that there are people in their jails that are wanted federally, and they're just releasing them back into the community, which makes things more dangerous, because then our federal partners have to go out and apprehend them. It'd be so much easier if our local counties would hand these people over to the feds. There shouldn't be much debate there.
At the same time, President Trump said he's told local communities it is up to them to protect them. It does mark a shift in strategy after the deployment of thousands of National Guard troops over the past year.